Hey guys, it's Destiny, and in today's video, we'll be going over whether you should be spending your Starlight on tickets for more pulls, or if you should be saving it for the standard 5-star light cones. I'll be going over the value of pulls in scenarios where it may be ideal to go with pulls with the tickets, and go over the value of light cones that are provided for purchase in the Starlight shop. Before we get into today's video though, I wanted to mention our sponsor of today's video, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends is a free-to-play RPG that has PvE and PvP content, is filled with over 700 champions which are playable characters, each that have their own abilities and unique skills, and has constant updates for new content to explore. You can play Raid Shadow Legends on your desktop or mobile device, which allows you to play on the go and to your convenience. I recently started playing Raid Shadow Legends a while ago, and I've been having fun with the gameplay, as well as the story in the game, and seeing the unique designs of all the champions in the game as well. They've also recently released a limited animated series called Hall of the Arbiter, as well as lots of in-game content related to it. For example, the Mighty Orc Warlord Artek, one of the characters from the show, who you can get absolutely for free just by logging into Raid for 7 days between now and July 24th. Thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring today's video, and I would heavily appreciate if you guys could scan the QR code or click the link in the description and try out Raid Shadow Legends, as it'll help me as well as grant new players this awesome starter pack. Now, let's carry on with today's video. To begin, I wanted to go over 5-star light cones, their value, and which ones I would personally recommend saving for. To begin, let's go over Gepard's Light Cone. Gepard's Light Cone is able to increase the wearer's defense by 24% and effect hit rate by 24% as well. It also increases the chances for the wearer to be attacked by enemies, and when the wearer is attacked, it increases their defense by an additional 24% until the end of the wearer's turn. This light cone is very good for those who do have Gepard, as he's able to have more defense, which results in him creating stronger shields, increases the chances he's attacked, and also increases his effect hit rate. Gepard's skill without E1 has a 65 base chance to freeze enemies, and the additional 24% effect hit rate can be beneficial for Gepard, being more consistent with freezing enemies. Of course though, you definitely would want more effect hit rate if your goal is to freeze with the skill. This is still very beneficial, as it can allow you to worry less about effect hit rate substats on Gepard. Here are also some examples of Gepard's defense with the signature light cone and some of the other light cones to compare his defense stat, as well as how strong the shields are, which here is Gepard's light cone's shields. The 4-star This Is Me, which is good for increasing the wearer's defense percentage, and Texture of Memories, which is a free light cone from the Simulated Universe shop that increases the wearer's effect resistance, and Day 1 of My New Life can be a good option as well for increasing allies' resistance. This Is Me as Superimposition 1 seems to come the closest to Gepard's defense and shielding capabilities in comparison. However, Gepard cannot take use of the secondary effect since his ultimate does not do damage to enemies. Overall though, Gepard's light cone has a lot of benefits, which is the defense increase, an additional increase if Gepard gets hit, the likelihood of him being attacked increasing as well, which means he'll likely be able to get the additional defense increase each turn, and the effect hit rate bonus, which is beneficial for freezing enemies. As a result, Gepard's Light Cone, through calculations, utility within Light Cone, and my personal usage, makes it definitely worth considering, in my opinion, to get with your Starlight. Before we get into the next light cone though, if you are enjoying the video, consider subscribing for more Starlight content, and now let's carry on. Now let's go over Bronya's Light Cone. Bronya's Light Cone increases the wearer's energy regeneration rate by 10% and regenerates 1 skill point when the wearer uses their ultimate on an ally. This is really good because now Bronya will be able to regenerate skill points with her ultimate, and when she also uses her skill, the next ally taking action except for the wearer deals 30% more damage for 1 turn. I would highly recommend Bronya's Light Cone, as it's very beneficial utility-wise. Bronya will be able to get her ultimate faster, which now results in more uptime, which results now in your team having more attack and crit damage buffs more frequently. Since Bronya now has more uptime on her ultimate, as I said before, she can regenerate skill points for the team alongside the uptime. Every 2 ultimates will grant a skill point for the team, which can be beneficial for your team's synergy and skill point management to a degree. The final effect of her Light Cone is quite nice as well, since now she'll be buffing you further with an additional 30% damage increase. And of course, the final effect of the Light Cone with the damage increase is also beneficial as well, just for more damage output for your DPS. A lot of Harmony Light Cones though are very nice, such as Dance Dance Dance, Carve the Moon, Weave the Clouds, and so on. However, based on my personal experience, I would say the utility that comes from her light cone can definitely be worthwhile and definitely is a good option to consider using your Starlight for. Next up is Clara's Light Cone, which increases the wearer's attack by 24%, and when the wearer defeats an enemy or is hit, they will immediately restore HP equal to 8% of their attack. At the same time, the wearer's damage is increased by 24% until the end of the next turn. This light cone out of every destruction class light cone so far has the best combination of damage output as well as survivability in my opinion. This light cone allows Clara to recover health whenever she is hit or defeats an enemy based on her attack, which allows Clara to have more survivability. Clara, as we know, is a character who wants to take hits as well as dish out a bunch of damage in return to the enemy, and she has increased taunt within her kit and allows for her probability of being targeted to be increased. This light cone is a primary way to have the attack increase, basically a guaranteed damage increase, and also recover health as she loses it and gets hit. As for calculations, Clara's light cone as for right now is her best in slot and option, and here are also some other options, which consists of Fall of the Eon, which is great for attack buffs and damage increases when enemies are weakness broken, and Nowhere to Run, which is good for attack buffs as well as restoring health. These are pretty nice damage options, but I would definitely say the additional survivability, damage bonus, and consistent healing of Clara's Light Cone will make it the best for her. Overall though, I would suggest picking up this light cone if you are considering it, and I've been using it personally on my own Clara and been having great success with it. As for Himeko, her light cone is nice for the attack and damage bonuses, especially when there are multiple enemies on the field. However, her light cone is quite conditional. Some other options can be the Seriousness of Breakfast, which increases your attack for a defeated enemy and increases the wearer's damage. Today is Another Peaceful Day is another option, which increases the wearer's damage dependent on their maximum energy. And if you do have Jingyuin's light cone before dawn, you could also consider this on Himeko, as it'll increase her crit damage, follow-up attack damage, skill, and ultimate damage. Himeko's light cone isn't bad, however I do believe using your Starlight on one of the previous mentioned light cones can likely be far more beneficial for your characters and your account. Now for Welt, his light cone is nice for increasing damage to debuffed enemies, and when Welt uses his skill, his effect hit rate and attack will be increased. This light cone isn't too shabby, but if you're looking at more DPS output, Good Night and Sleep Well could be a great option, as it is a powerful light cone for damage increases, since it can stack 3 times depending on how many debuffs the enemy already has inflicted onto them. There are also other light cone options that could be good on Welt and Nihility characters overall. Welt's light cone isn't a bad option to pick, but it ultimately comes down on what you're trying to do with your Welt, and I would personally recommend the first few light cones mentioned instead of Welt's from my own personal experience, as well as comparing Welt's light cone to the other light cones through calculations. As for Yanqing, I would primarily recommend using either his light cone on him, which increases his crit damage by a good amount and can increase his crit rate if he misses critical hits, and the free-to-play option Cruising in the Stellar Sea, which increases his crit rate and also increases attack percentage for 2 turns after defeating an enemy. Yanqing's signature light cone has more damage output, however the accessibility of Cruising in the Stellar Sea for most players and the ability to superimpose it to 5 can be a good reason to possibly pass on using your Starlight on his 5-star light cone. Through my personal experience, I do like using both light cones on him, and it ultimately comes down to you on which one you want to use and how much you value what his signature light cone offers. Lastly, let's go over Bailu. Her signature light cone increases the wearer's max HP by 18% and their outgoing healing by 12%. Bailu's light cone also has additional effects, such as when an ally launches an attack, a random attacked enemy takes additional damage equal to 36% of the recorded outgoing healing value from Bailu's healing. This light cone, through calculations, gives the best healing output for Bailu. However, there are more options one can use for Bailu, even if the healing isn't as much as her signature. Bailu can use Shared Feeling for increased outgoing healing and giving the team more energy each time she uses a skill. This can be good for allies being able to possibly use their ultimates more frequently. Another light cone called Perfect Timing can also have good healing output as well if your Bailu has a good amount of effect resistance. This could be a pretty beneficial stat overall for Bailu. Bailu would not benefit from being crowd controlled, as that can get in the way of her healing the team. So building effect resistance can prevent crowd control debuffs and also increase her healing for the team, which results in this light cone being a very good option, especially with the new planar set coming soon. There are many light cones that can be pretty good on Bailu, so while her light cone currently is her best in slot, you could definitely use another light cone and still be able to have good healing and consistency, and possibly alternate ways of utility, which can be energy regeneration for allies, her having more effect resistance to resist crowd control debuffs, and so on. Now that I've gone over all the light cones in cases where you may or may not want them, when would someone actually pick pulls or the tickets over light cones? The best scenarios I'd recommend picking tickets instead is if you're near a pity for a character or you know you can get enough pulls and getting the tickets would ensure that you get the desired character you want. Or possibly even using the tickets for the light cone banner for that character you want and may have already obtained, which can help you obtain their signature light cone. Overall, it comes down to which option is best for you and your account and what you want to prioritize getting the most, whether it be a limited character or the standard 5-star light cones. I hope this video helped out, and if it did, consider subscribing to see more Starlight content from me, as I'll be going over Blade fully in depth in my upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. Also, let me know in the comments down below, which 5-star light cone are you possibly saving for? Lastly, if you could leave a like on the video, it would be appreciated as it helps out the video. And like always, I hope you all have a nice one. Peace.